Hey, what's going on, Guardians? TBL here from Planet Destiny, and today is a big day indeed. This update is further laying the groundwork for Rise of Iron, but as we learned today, it'll also be containing some Destiny weapon tuning. And in this video, we're going to be covering some of the weapon class changes that we'll be seeing with Update 2.4.0. And of course, we'll be discussing how exactly they're going to affect the Crucible environment. The changes in 2.4.0 will go hand in hand with the weapon ecosystem of Rise of Iron. Let's go ahead and dive into the meat of these balance changes. And we're going to be starting things off with some changes to a class that's either going to make you really happy or admittedly really salty. The changes coming to sniper rifles, and believe me, they are absolutely huge. The article goes to state that snipers are being utilized extremely effectively in both the Crucible and against the minions of the darkness. However, one family of sniper rifles stands out from the rest. The mid to high impact family of sniper rifles, of which the 1000-yard stare and the longbow synthesis belong. Now let's evaluate the benefits of this family. They've got decent magazine sizes combined with a strong impact to provide for strong overall DPS, strong target acquisition, and when combined with hidden hand can reach the upper echelon normally reserved only for lower impact sniper rifles like the Wayloran's March or the Shadow of Aim Assist. The ability to take down a Guardian while in their super state, and high body shot damage with a rate of fire still fast enough that the 2-tap body shot is still viable. They're going to be implementing a reduced damage on the mid to high impact tier, again the 1000-yard stare family, by about 6.95%, basically a 7% damage reduction. Also, the upper mid impact snipers will now no longer be able to reliably kill high armor Guardians in supers. This is huge. Being able to one-shot a Guardian who's in their super has long been the big perk of sniper rifles like this. So losing the ability to kill high armor Guardians in their super is going to be a huge change. It's worth noting that the No Land Beyond is not affected by this damage reduction, and they've also reduced the target acquisition for the LDR 5001 and the longbow synthesis to bring them more in line with other snipers in the same family. Now, this is another big change. The base aim assist on the LDR 5001 in Year 2 is now 64, while the base aim assist on the longbow synthesis is 68. Now, comparatively speaking, the 1000-yard stare, which is also in that tier of sniper rifles with 31 impact, only has 56 aim assist. So we're assuming that Bungie's going to be dropping both the LDR and the longbow synthesis to be more in line with that. Now, as a result of these changes, the slowest firing family of sniper rifles, aka the Black Spindle, should be your key tool to take down supers, balanced by a lower magazine size, lower fire rate, and lower base aim assist. But that's not the only change coming to snipers, and this next one is quite a doozy. They start this section off with an anecdote. You get the drop on an enemy sniper, reducing him down to a pixel of his life. Right before you pull the trigger for the last bullet to exit your scout rifle's chamber, you see the glint and hear the sound of your head turning to mush. You raise your fist in the air and release a silent scream so as not to wake the baby. It's a scene I'm sure we've all been through, and it looks like Bungie is going to be addressing it in a big way. Starting with Update 2.4.0, they're going to be increasing the starting strength for aim deflection, aka flinch, when players take damage while scoped in, moving it from 30% to 50%. And with each subsequent hit, the strength of deflection is going to increase until you hit 100% max deflection. The overall sniper ADS aim deflection multiplier has been increased to 1.9 times, rather than the 1.8 times that it used to be. What this basically means is that when you start shooting a sniper who's hard scoping down a lane, they're going to start to experience more and more aim deflection, more and more flinch as you hit them more and more times, meaning they're going to have a really hard time keeping their sights locked on you. Well, as long as you're actually landing shots on them. This is basically going to try to help promote primary play against snipers, since in the current meta it's really pretty hard to challenge any sniper with really any primary in the game. So introducing some level of flinch might be a good way to promote primaries being able to challenge those snipers at least some of the time. All in all, this is going to be a big change, and it's definitely going to affect the ongoing meta. Alright, let's move on to the next weapon class, auto rifles. Middle rate of fire auto rifles are going to be receiving a small damage boost to help with damage fall off, but the resulting damage doesn't really drastically change their time to kill. They've reduced the maximum magazine size for the highest rate of fire of auto rifles, think the doctrine of passing, and they've increased the damage of the middle rate of fire autos by about 1.5%. So you won't be able to engage multiple people with a single magazine from your Doctrine of Passing anymore, and the middle rate of fire autos, so stuff like the Hakon's Hatchet, or the Paleo Contact, or the Righteous 7, they're going to be getting a small increase to damage of 1.5%. Next up, we've got the changes coming to shotguns. There's not a lot. First, the Amobius is going to be seeing a decrease on its spread when you're ADSing. They're also going to be increasing its base stability by 60%. Next, they're reducing the spread angle penalty on shotguns with the full auto perk, but the invective will not be affected. And finally, they're increasing the high rate of fire and middle to low rate of fire shotgun damages by 2% overall. So high rate of fire and mid-low rate of fire shotguns are going to be seeing a base damage increase of 2%. Not bad. Alright, moving on to pulse rifles here. One, they've increased the rate of fire for the Haka pulse rifle Lyudmila D. And they've given a minor increase of 2% to the damage for the middle rate of fire family of pulses. Think Nerwin's Mercy. This is overall good news, especially for the middle rate of fire family of pulse rifles, since they got a pretty heavy nerf not too far back. You might notice that Red Death is almost all but useless in PvP right now. So I'm definitely happy to see that they're getting a 2% damage increase. I think it could be a little bit higher than that. But I'm kind of confused that they haven't done anything to the high impact family of pulse rifles, which are technically still capable of two-bursting people, but they're in a really bad spot right now. But at the very least, hopefully the Nerwin's Mercy archetype of pulses will now be able to compete a little bit better with those in the Hawksaw tier. Alright, moving on to sidearms, and we've got quite a few changes coming to this class. Bungie states that they want sidearms to be able to shoot further, faster, and with more predictability. So, they've unified the damage for all sidearm types. And in order to achieve that, they've increased the damage for existing Haka sidearms by about 3% for the lowest rate of fire ones and 7% for the higher rate of fire ones. They've also decreased damage for non-hit scan sidearms by 5%, those being the Vestian Dynasty and the Queen's Choice, so really the only two decent sidearms in PvP right now. They've granted a minor extension for the damage fall-off point for sidearms across the board by about plus 0.5 meters, and they've also given a minor increase of stability for sidearms all across the board. Every sidearm's going to be seeing a small increase for stability. They've added a damage bonus in PvE of about 20 to 30% depending on the combatant tier, and to accommodate the two new faster firing sidearm families releasing in Rise of Iron, all current sidearm rate of fire bars will be slightly shorter. They go on to state that this is just so that they have more bar space to display the rate of fire differentiation. Does not really actually change the rate of fire of those sidearms, just the way the bar looks. Next up, we've got a buff and a nerf to the rocket launcher class. Starting off with cluster bombs, which Bungie states are not always super reliable. So they're going to be working towards making cluster bombs more reliable and grenades and horseshoes less reliable. And to do that, they've increased the effective range on the explosions for the cluster bomb perk, and the grenades and horseshoes perk activation radius has been reduced from 1.3 meters to just 1 meter. Truth will not be affected by this change. So another patch, another nerf to grenades and horseshoes. But at the very least, maybe it will mean cluster bombs will finally be worth it. Alright, moving on to machine guns, there's a single change coming to the machine gun class of family. They've increased the damage on the highest rate of fire machine guns by about 4%. I'm super happy about this. This means that machine guns in the 88 rate of fire 29 impact tier are going to be seeing a base damage increase of 4%. We're talking stuff like the variable and super good advice. And I'm definitely happy about that. Those guns dealing more damage is always a good thing. Alright, moving on to the next class. Hand cannons. Disappointingly for me, you're only going to be finding some small bug fixes for 2.4.0 in this weapon category. However, as a preview to Rise of Iron, newly minted low rate of fire hand cannons will now have a higher maximum possible range stat, giving players a distinct reason to choose that type of weapon. I gotta say, out of everything that's come in this tuning preview, this has been the most disappointing thing for me, since I'm really not a fan of RNG shots on my hand cannons. Who knows, maybe we'll get that changed sometime in the future. Guess we'll just have to see. And finally, in terms of the weapon tuning, we've got fusion rifles, which thankfully again are only seeing small bug fixes. Bungie says you can stop making the joke about nerfing fusion rifles now. And these fixes are as thus. Accelerated coils will now correctly reflect the damage reduction on the UI stat bars. It's gonna have no gameplay effect, it's just a change to the UI. And they fixed an issue where the stat bars on the Teshian Rage were displayed incorrectly. Then there we go. That's it for the preview of the weapon class changes that are going to be coming later today with update 2.4.0. And I gotta say, some of it I'm very happy with. Again, I'm happy with the change to high rate of fire machine guns. I'm happy with the middle tier of pulse rifles getting buffed, but there's quite a bit that I'm also a little bit saddened by. No change for high impact pulse rifles, no real change at all for the hand cannon class, and no real change for the high impact tier of auto rifles. All of which I think needed buffs of some kind before or when Rise of Iron came out. And of course, I think the most game-changing thing in this update is easily going to be the addition of more aim deflection, more flinch to snipers. It's definitely going to make Crucible encounters a little bit more interesting. It means if you're sniping and you miss that first headshot on somebody, they have a much greater opportunity to take you out now. But alright Guardians, there we go. That's it for the weapon class changes coming in Update 2.4.0. But that's not everything that's in the update. Now, as part of the weapon class and sandbox changes coming in Update 2.4.0, we'll also be seeing changes to the way some of the weapon perks in the game also work. Bungie states that after months of collecting player feedback and analyzing usage data, we decided upon a list of perks that could benefit from a refresh. So we're going to be taking a look at some of the changes coming to your favorite, or maybe least favorite perks. First up, obviously the best perk in the game, Take a Knee. Take a Knee will now activate after 0.5 seconds of crouching. They've also added a flinch reduction of 25% and increased your aim down sight speed by 25% while you've got Take a Knee active. Next up, we've got Exhumed, where they've added an extra 5 seconds of effect time to total out at 15 total seconds. Then we've got Cascade, which has a functional change. Melee kills will now automatically reload a portion of the magazine. That's pretty big if you ask me. After that, we've got Surplus, which now increases the carried ammo capacity. Then, Grave Robber will now see an increased activation chance to 25%. It was previously 20%. Next up, we've got Guerrilla Fighter, the second best perk in the game, which will see increased stability and range bonuses by 200%. Think of it as a bonus hammer forged and perfect balance when the perk activates. Which is a huge change. It means Guerrilla Fighter would be super duper useful if really more of the encounters in the game actually took advantage of cover shooting. After that, we've got some changes to some magazine perks, which can now grant range bonuses. One, they've removed impact stat bonuses that had no effect on base damage and only on the UI. Armor-piercing rounds will now add +4 range while reducing your handling by 4. High caliber rounds will add +3 range and reduce your handling by 5. And finally, skip rounds will add +5 range while reducing your handling by 3, and it will add +5 to your ammo inventory stat. Pretty big change there. And finally, we're going to see a change to the unflinching perk. They've decreased the efficacy of the perk from 25% flinch reduction to 15% flinch reduction. Again, to work in tandem with the new flinch mechanics that snipers will have. But there we go. That's it, Guardians, for the changes to perks that are going to be coming with Update 2.4.0 once maintenance ends. Be sure to let us know how you feel about some of these perk changes down in the comment section below. Personally, I'm really excited to see how skip rounds is going to work now. With +5 range and even more ammo in your inventory, it sounds like it's going to be pretty good. And who knows, maybe Guerrilla Fighter will actually have a use. But alright, it's going to be it for this one, guys. Thanks so much for watching. And as always, I am the Black Link. You Guardians, stay frosty.